Mai was once the beloved daughter of the powerful Lin family, known for their wealth and influence in the imperial court. She lived a life of luxury, admired by all. Until the night, everything changed. Rumors of treason spread like wildfire through the capital. Officials stormed the Lin estate, arresting her father and brothers, while the servants scattered in fear. Mai watched in horror as soldiers ransacked her home, tearing down the banners of her family crest and setting fire to their ancestral halls. She barely had time to comprehend what was happening before her mother pushed a cloak into her hands and whispered, "Run. Never look back." Her mother's final words haunted her as she fled into the night, slipping past the city gates under the cover of darkness. Her once glorious life had shattered, and she had become a fugitive. As dawn broke, she reached the outskirts of the city, exhausted and alone. Days turned into weeks. Mai traveled from village to village, hiding her identity, afraid that anyone she met could betray her. The news was grim. Her father and brothers had been executed, her mother had disappeared, and those loyal to the Lin family had either been imprisoned or killed. The powerful Lin name had been erased, reduced to nothing but a cautionary tale of betrayal. In a single night, Mai went from a noble lady to a fugitive. Hiding in the shadows, she vowed to uncover the truth. She refused to accept that her family was guilty. Someone had orchestrated their downfall, and she intended to find out who. She could no longer be Lin Mai, the noble lady. She had to become someone else, someone strong enough to survive and seek justice. To survive, Mai changed her name to Xia and took refuge in a distant village. She lived cautiously, always watching her back. Every shadow felt like a threat, every stranger a potential informant. She could trust no one. The once refined noblewoman now had to learn to survive as a commoner, chopping firewood, fetching water, and sewing her own clothes. The days were grueling, but she endured, determined to stay hidden while piecing together the truth. During her time in the village, she heard whispers of the empire's political unrest. There were hushed conversations about betrayals in the court, powerful figures rising and falling overnight. While searching for answers, she discovered that the conspiracy against her family led to the highest ranks of power. One name stood out: Prince Rui. Prince Rui was feared and respected, a ruthless tactician who played the political game with precision. He was known for his cold, calculating nature, showing neither mercy nor weakness. But there were also stories of his hidden motives, his personal losses, and his unpredictable decisions. Some claimed he was a monster, others believed he was the empire's last hope against corruption. Mai's instincts told her that Rui was connected to her family's downfall. Whether as an enemy or a pawn, he was part of the conspiracy. If she wanted justice, she had to get close to him. But approaching a man like Rui was nearly impossible unless she took a risk. One night, fate intervened. A group of armed men stormed the village, searching for a fugitive. Mai hid, but as she peered through the cracks of a wooden shed, she saw Prince Rui himself leading the search. She held her breath as his sharp eyes scanned the area. He was as intimidating as the stories, said, tall, clad in black armor, exuding an aura of control and danger. A commotion broke out. A young boy, falsely accused of being the fugitive, was dragged before Rui. The villagers trembled, terrified of the prince's judgment. Seeing the injustice unfold, Mai made a split-second decision. She stepped out of hiding and spoke. "My lord, he is not the one you seek." The crowd gasped. Rui's gaze snapped to her, piercing and unreadable. Mai felt a chill down her spine, but she held her ground. In that moment, she wasn't a fugitive, she was a woman with a purpose. Rui studied her for a long time before finally speaking. "And how would you know that?" Thinking quickly, Mai fabricated a story, claiming she had seen the real fugitive escaping through the forest. Rui's men hesitated, unsure whether to believe her, but Rui, intrigued by her confidence, ordered his soldiers to follow her lead. As the soldiers disappeared into the night, Rui turned back to Mai. "You're either very brave or very foolish," he said, his voice low and dangerous. "Which is it?" Mai forced a small smile. "I suppose time will tell." That was the moment their fates became entwined. Determined to get closer to the truth, Mai infiltrated Rui's inner circle. She posed as a loyal servant, carefully collecting secrets while staying hidden in plain sight. Everyone else, she was just another faceless handmaid, but she used every opportunity to observe and listen. What she didn't know was that Rui was already suspicious. He had sensed something unusual about her from the start, the sharpness of her gaze, the way she carried herself, too refined for a mere servant. Instead of exposing her immediately, he played along, curious to see what she was after. He tested her with small tasks, giving her opportunities to slip up, but Mai remained careful, never revealing too much. Days turned into weeks, and Mai found herself navigating a dangerous web of palace politics. Every interaction was a careful balance. Too much curiosity could get her killed, but too little would leave her in the dark. She learned that the court was divided into factions, each vying for power, and at the center of it all was Rui. He played his enemies like chess pieces, always 2 steps ahead. One evening, while organizing Rui's study, she stumbled upon documents bearing her family's crest. Her heart pounded as she carefully read the contents, records of her father's supposed betrayal, signed and sealed by the emperor himself. But something felt off. The handwriting didn't match, and certain details were inconsistent. Someone had forged the documents to frame her family. Before she could process it fully, Rui entered the room. He studied her reaction, his expression unreadable. "You've been busy," he remarked, his voice eerily calm. Mai's mind raced. She could lie, feign ignorance, or admit the truth. But before she could speak, Rui stepped closer. "Tell me, Xia, who are you really? Trapped?" Mai realized the game of deception was no longer in her favor. The predator had turned his gaze fully on her, and this time, she wasn't sure if she could escape. When Rui finally discovered her true identity, his cold mask cracked. He felt betrayed, yet he couldn't bring himself to punish her. Mai, torn between her mission and the growing connection she felt with Rui, faced an impossible choice. Would she continue seeking revenge, or would she trust the man she once saw as an enemy? The confrontation between them was tense. "You lied to me," Rui said, his voice measured but laced with something unspoken, hurt, perhaps. "From the moment we met, I had no choice," Mai answered, her gaze unwavering. "Would you have trusted me if I told you the truth?" Rui said nothing, because they both knew the answer. The lines between enemy and ally had blurred. Mai had seen a different side of Rui, not just the ruthless prince, but the man beneath the armor, the strategist who carried burdens no one else could see. And Rui had come to admire Mai's strength, her resilience, the fire in her that refused to be extinguished. But trust was fragile, and Rui struggled with the realization that the woman he had protected, perhaps even cared for, had been deceiving him from the start. Just when it seemed they had reached an impasse, the true mastermind behind Mai's family's downfall emerged, Grand Chancellor Wei, a cunning and ambitious official who had long sought to consolidate power. It was he who had forged the treason documents, using Mai's father as a scapegoat to eliminate a rival and secure his influence over the emperor. When Mai told Rui what she had discovered, his expression darkened. Grand Chancellor Wei was not just any court official. He had been Rui's mentor, the man who had once guided him through the brutal world of imperial politics. With the truth finally exposed, Rui had a choice to make. He could turn Mai in and salvage his reputation, or he could stand beside her and defy the court that had long controlled him. Against all odds, he chose her. The confrontation at court was tense. As Mai presented the forged documents alongside Rui's testimony, Grand Chancellor Wei scoffed, calling it the desperate lies of a traitor's daughter. But Mai had one final weapon, a secret witness, a former scribe who had once been forced to draft the false accusations. Under pressure, the scribe revealed the truth. The court erupted into chaos. The emperor, enraged at the deception, ordered Wei's arrest. But the Grand Chancellor would not go down without a fight. He attempted one last act of treachery, calling upon his loyal guards to seize Mai and Rui. The hall became a battlefield, steel clashing against steel as Rui fought off the guards, protecting Mai as she stood her ground. By the end of the struggle, Wei was slain, his loyalists defeated, and the emperor's fury turned to remorse. He restored Mai's family's honor, though the scars of injustice could never truly be erased. Yet, victory came at a cost. Mai and Rui had exposed a powerful conspiracy, but in doing so, they had made countless enemies. They had won this battle, but they knew others would follow. Standing amid the shattered remnants of their past, Mai and Rui looked at each other, not as prince and fugitive, nor as enemies, but as two survivors who had fought and bled for the truth. With the truth revealed, Mai had a chance to reclaim her life, but the world she once knew was gone. She and Rui stood at a crossroads, two souls who had fought against each other, but ultimately found something neither had planned for: love. But what came next? The empire still bore scars from corruption, and their victory had left both powerful allies and dangerous enemies in the shadows. Mai and Rui had won the battle, but their war was far from over. Mai knew she could never return to the quiet life she once had. The noble daughter had died the night her family was taken from her. In her place stood a woman forged by loss and survival, a woman who had learned to wield power as skillfully as any court official. And now, she had to decide. Would she step away from the political games she had fought so hard to navigate, or would she embrace the role fate had carved for her? Rui, too, faced a choice. He had spent years playing the Empire's ruthless game, never allowing himself to trust or love. But Mai had changed him. She had challenged him, deceived him, and yet, in the end, stood beside him. For the first time, he saw a future not dictated by cold strategy, but by something deeper. They could walk away together, disappear into obscurity, leaving the palace and its endless schemes behind. But neither of them were meant for an ordinary life. Instead, they chose to rebuild, not just themselves, but the empire that had tried to break them. Hand in hand, they stepped forward, no longer prince and fugitive, no longer enemies bound by deception. They were equals, partners in a world that sought to control them. And as the sun rose over the empire, a new chapter began, not just for them, but for the kingdom. They swore to change.